Jeremy Enriquez is deeply devoted. He's a man on a mission. Look at his body of work. He's a testament that effective communications with God are too deep for words. The other day, Jeremy posted that he was going away, in effect, to teach a course on meditation, wherein people avoid taking their, talking and completely shut down any incoming communications, cell phones and all that, uh, as they journey inward, you know. So the purpose of such an exercise is to learn how to see with clarity, to see from within, from inside yourself, how you think, feel, and experience by removing your own biases. That's the goal. Yeah, seeing with a third eye, because these two are biased. You're the one standing behind the camera with these two logical eyes, but you're not factoring in your biases. Whenever you say these are my people, you're saying the other people in the world are not. That's a bias. Huge. Because all 8.3 billion world population are children of God, all created by God. Who else created them? Only became life when God breathed life into them. So they can all call God Father. Not only you, they're all His children. So the devotees to spirituality doing the retreat are there to grow spiritually by growing in perception through talking, to taking a journey inward. This is how you know God is a spirit being, by journeying inward through meditation, yeah, and having a relationship with God, a spirit being, through experience. You become enlightened. To be in the dark is to not know something. Therefore, becoming enlightened is knowing that which you did not know before. In interacting with others, I only make sure I'm seeing with clarity. I don't draw any conclusions. I simply take what's there. I'm not interested in a person's past. I'm not there to condemn him or her. So I don't draw conclusions. By paying keen and undivided attention, I know everything there is to know about a person standing before me or in my company, presence, whatever. I get I get what that the person is communicating, both verbal and nonverbal. Language is also a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy to the one who is not understanding the language. My mission is to explore the awesome possibilities with people, helping them to become the best version of themselves. I am neither an optimist nor a pessimist. I'm a realist. After all, God is real and life is real. Hmm? There are times when the issue a person has is of a spiritual nature, yes, other than physical or mental. Hmm? And spiritual is mental, by the way. And if so, I would know, for it is right down my alley. I'm a spiritual life transformation coach. That's who I am, a scientist, there to empower people through inner engineering, helping them realize the nature of their own existence. And as a realist, I start with the basis, telling people that they were born spiritual and complete in all aspects, which is true. Hmm? After God created you, He said, "You're good." He said, "Very good." God didn't come up with this construct, good and evil, or good and bad. God only created good. Religion came up with the construct, good versus evil, out of convenience. And yeah, I do, I help people learn and know the nature of their existence, and I go from there by helping them to journey inward so they know how they think, feel, and experience life. I take a scientific approach, helping people become the best version of themselves instead of living their lives by comparison, which is a terrible way to live. And you're only able to compare after you've perceived. I keep saying, using the example, that when you were growing up like I did, not knowing about mule and cart, you said carrying water or sand from the beach was hard when you carried it on your back or your head. Now when you saw the mule and cart, then you had something to compare it, then you started saying, oh, this is hard work. And then bicycle came along, and then you said mule and cart was hard work. And then vehicle came along, and then you said bicycle was hard work. That's the way it is. Living by comparison. Then you start to discriminate and talk about the concept hard. I'm not only a realist, but also a seeker, as opposed to a believer, a seeker of knowledge and truth. Therefore, I neither believe nor disbelieve anything, no matter who says, until it enters my experience. So to clarify, I am not clergy. I am not a clergyman, not a man of the cloth, trying to make disciples and have them follow me. No, I am only empowering people. That's what I do. I empower people, helping them to become conscious and aware through inner engineering. People should neither look up to anyone nor look down on anyone. Rather, they should see people just the way they are. I don't relish people calling me anything but my name. You don't need to address me as a mister. I am who I am. Percy, that's the one I go by. If they look up to people, they'll overcompensate and therefore not see the truth and reality of that person. And if they or you look down on someone, what you're doing is drawing conclusions. Yeah? When what all you're seeing is a snapshot, but you're there drawing conclusions, writing that person up. When as long as she lives, there's always the awesome possibility that he transforms and becomes the very best version of him or herself. People are not ready to transform until they reach a point in their lives when they say, I've seen it all, know it all, have it all, and been everywhere, yet I remain unfulfilled. As I yearn, I remain unfulfilled, having tried to satisfy my yearning through my physical body and mind. Now I'm ready to go in another direction, try a different approach. So I want to abandon. That's where when they come to my radar, I want to abandon by putting a safe distance between myself and all the identifications, all the ID badges, all the identities that I have adopted, as well as the attachments. Because these are the things that cause you to drift from your spiritual core. You were born spiritual, but you drifted. You drifted the more ID badges you wear, the more you discriminate. When you join an organization, you discriminate. You discriminate against the rest of organizations. When you belong to a society, you discriminate against the other societies. When you belong to a country, you discriminate against the other countries. And so on and so on and so on. When God is one, and the universe is one energy. God is one without borders. The spirit realm is without borders. I am ready. Person says I'm ready to abandon and dispossess and become, governed through my spirit as opposed to how I was doing, trying to govern by my body and mind. To transform, then one has to go from the physical material realm to the spirit realm. There's no other way but to surrender. You can't go from one realm to the next in a drip process. You can't become spiritual in a drip drip process. No, it's you have to have an explosion. You have to undergo an explosion because you're going from one realm to the next. That's the initial way you start. You have to explode and go through the stages. The stages are solid, where you rigid. You say, I was born this way. This is who I am, how I am. This is my personality, character, and the whole 9 yards. You go from that to liquid, flexible, where you no longer talk like, okay, I like this, but I don't like that. You become either a day or night person. You go from that to vapor. When children are blowing bubbles, they say, okay, this is my bubble, that's your bubble. But when the bubble bursts and vaporize, you can't distinguish. You're both breathing the same air. You can't tell one's bubble from the other. And you go from vapor then to the realm of nothingness, which is the realm of the spirit. The way to grow spiritually, therefore, is first by growing in perception, not expression. Talking, chanting, singing, communicating otherwise, they're all forms of expression. Wailing, whatever you call it, having a dialogue, all forms of expression. When it comes to God, you express, and it's healthy. That's where prayer is useful, to give adoration, praise. You express to beg, making supplication. It's helpful that way. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, thanksgiving, giving thanks. Thank you, God, for waking me up. Thank you for keeping me alive, and so on. But all that is expression, ventilation. You're getting things out of your system. That's not for growth. You're vomiting. You're purging. For growth, you have to enter into your system. And so to grow, you need to be quiet and not be there like your God's advisor, and become filled with knowledge. That's what perception does. There are only two ways that you can perceive. One is through your logical 5 common senses. You can't know God that way. The only way you can know God is through perception, knowledge by perception, through the experience of a relationship, the way you hypothetically know a prostitute, through a one-night stand. You know her experientially, him or her, through the experience of a relationship. That's how you know yourself, how you feel, think, and experience. The nature of your existence. And you accomplish that through quiet meditation. Meditation is not an act. It is a manner of being. So I've established, and you ought to, a consecrated altar within myself wherein I meditated 24/7. And then I consecrate my spaces from where I'm talking. My office, my what you call this? My studio, my bedroom, my kitchen, and then the yard, and then the neighborhood. You consecrate these places. And you use, the 5 elements, like fire, candles, incense. You use earth. You use trees and plants. That's how you consecrate. The other way, well, from there, so I'm saying you consecrate. When you are devotee to spirituality, and that's what devotion means, by the way. When you're committed, totally, devotion to God, totally committed. Secondly, by involving a community, involving community service and participation. That's how you grow. How you grow, spiritual growth, by becoming involved. Not isolating, becoming involved. Delving out into the deep. So you see, I'm saying, A devotee to spirituality no longer discriminates because God is one and the universe is one energy. So you don't identify any longer. You trade in those ID badges for a universal identity. For God is one and the universe is one energy. So even though you no longer identify with another said organization, like I no longer identify with either politics or religion, a political organization or party, or a religious organization or religion, but I associate. I don't identify, but I associate, and I do so with all, without getting entangled. So I'm very involved, and even through this platform, we don't discriminate. Anyone over 18 can come on this platform. And it's only over 18 because those are not my rules, but the rules that are set by YouTube. The material is either for under 18 children or over 18. And there are rules if the material is for under 18. You can't be using adult words. So, evolution, as it relates to becoming a full-fledged human being, is a lifelong process. Assuming you don't suffer cognitive issues, or a person doesn't, then he, she, or you should only become full-fledged whenever you are dead, as you're becoming a better and better version of yourself each day. The intellect is a tool for exploration, not a tool for drawing conclusions. How do you realize that the true nature realize the true nature of your existence? First, by distinguishing what's real from what's not, what's purely psychological. Because reality doesn't change, never changes, cannot change. So I keep saying you're neither your body nor mind. They are your property, they belong to you. You grew that body that you have. You grew the body with food. Hmm? And then whatever you enter into your mind is what it becomes. So you be careful of the material you enter into it, yeah? Because it goes in unfiltered. It goes in unfiltered. You don't control what comes through your five common senses. Hello? You see what you don't want to see. You hear what you don't want to hear. Let me leave it at that. Please. Truth and reality are related in that truth is something you can only come to realize. It's whenever you go, aha, wow, I got it. That's when you realize it. It's not something you read in a book or hear from the utterance of a professor. Reality never changes. So you can only come to terms. You can only realize it. You can only come to terms with it. And that brings me to a close. My brother. Yes, it's ya. It's a lot here. Gone. See you another time. Ayo.